Oh, I didn't know. There we go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Adam.
And I'm Jake.
And we're the Hammered Brothers. And tonight, or today, or this morning, or this evening, we've actually been drinking for a while. That might be apparent.
What? This can...
No. Oh, I've got... Oh, they can still see it there. We've been drinking.
That's how cameras work.
We have in our possession some Lagunitas Imperial Stout. Good old Lagunitas from Petaluma, California. And Chicago, Illinois. Oh, all right. Well, that's something I didn't realize. Anyway, and we've already got a couple of glasses here. I've got this handy-dandy... the devil inside. Of course, there's the devil inside, but he's going to help me.
Are we going to talk about The Devil Inside, that movie?
No. Is that a movie? That probably is a movie.
Definitely was a movie that I never saw.
I didn't. Anyway, so we've got some beer, because that's what we do on this show. That is a big part of what we do on this show.
We've got
some
dark.
Beer. Of course it's dark. It's Imperial Stout, dude. My only regret is that it's only a 22-ouncer. So that makes me sad. So I have to try to make sure that I'm fair. Anyway, so we do have a topic. We're a couple beers in at this point, which may or may not be apparent. So we have decided to let you guys know a bunch of stuff that we both think is wildly overrated. Now, some of this stuff are things that, well, for instance, myself, I just refuse to participate in or view or whatever. And some of it we've both seen, and we have just both agreed that it is wildly overrated.
Mm-hmm. What's our first topic?
Well, I'm going to start out. I'm going to lead off with something that I've never seen. I cannot vouch for the quality of, but judging from the trailer alone, I just could not allow myself to waste time on this film. And that film is Gravity, starring Sandra Bullock and George Clooney.
Sandra Bullock's.
So
I've seen this movie.
You have?
I can't remember. So I'm someone who likes to watch movies as I either play video games or look at memes on my phone.
Yeah,
I
you're
guess.
better at that than I am.
I do that. So I don't even remember if I watched this movie very closely. I can remember it pretty well, and I remember disliking it.
Yeah. What I remember was seeing the theater. I was in the theater. I remember seeing the trailer in a theater. I don't remember what movie I was going to, but I remember that I saw the trailer in a theater. And initially, I was viewing the trailer, thinking to myself, oh, this looks pretty interesting. Right up until the point where things start going crazy.
Yeah?
And then you lost me.
Yeah. The movie itself had a bunch of positive qualities to it.
I'm sure it did.
But they were all completely undercut by ignoring science, physics, and by Sandra Bullock's obnoxious, horrible, scratchy, screaming voice during every scene that would have, like, things exploding around her.
Yeah.
And her breathing heavily the whole time while being told not to breathe heavily in order to conserve oxygen. And George Clooney and his voice just being George Clooney because he's not capable of having any range as an actor.
He's just George Clooney. That's
I
what
mean,
he is.
In some movies, George Clooney being George Clooney is fine.
Yep.
But in a bunch of movies, it's not. And this is one of those. He does not make a convincing astronaut by any stretch
Nor
of the
does Sandra
imagination.
Bullock, for that matter.
No, and she's actually not. She's just like supposed to be a scientist who got nominated to be in this. So she's not like an astronaut. She was
Yeah, I remember that happened back in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that it ended well for
didn't-
that
it didn't go
individual. Granted, I don't think it ended well for the rest of the crew either. Anyway, one of the things that turned me off about the movie in general was just the treatment, like the dramatization factor of everything related to space. Knowing what I know about the space program, with knowing what I know about NASA and the way that they do things, the way they go about things, everything about it turned me off. I just couldn't take it.
Mm-hmm.
Just couldn't do it. So that is the topic that I would lead off with. I don't have a lot to say about it. I haven't seen the movie.
Right.
I think it looks terrible. I've seen a few clips that there is weird things going on with the special effects. There's uncanny valley things happening. There's weird things going on with the physics, like you say, that just rub me the wrong way. They don't leave me with a sense of awe in the special effects, because I can clearly identify that's not how things work. No, I'm not any kind of genius. In fact, I consider myself to be kind of an idiot. But I know enough that when I see Sandra Bullock in space, and I see the way that she's taking off her spacesuit inside of the space station and stuff like that, I'm like, none of this is working for me. None of it. None of it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we don't need to dwell on it, but I would say that movie wildly overrated. So I can't come from the only thing that disappoints me is that I can't come from that from a viewpoint of authority, because I haven't actually seen it. I couldn't make myself watch it. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
Again, as someone who has seen it, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I would say it was just a really unfortunate misstep that they cast Sandra Bullock and George Clooney in the movie. Just about anyone else I can think of would have been better in those roles. Or preferably people who I didn't know who they were.
I think Selma Hayek and Antonio Banderas would have been much better. I would have paid to see that.
I could see that. Yeah, I would have been more okay with that.
That would have been great.
That would have been all right.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
been okay
why
with
not?
that.
Why not?
Yeah, that'd been all right.
Anyone who wasn't obvious movie actor man and lady I've seen in too many movies.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to call those two.
Yeah, and
With an obnoxious voice, which we have to hear constantly
Oh,
throughout the whole
jeez.
movie. She has an obnoxious voice. I mean, it's not her fault,
no,
but
it
she
kind of is.
does.
It's
But
the
she
way
does.
sometimes it's the way you use your voice that
Sometimes,
makes it
yeah.
obnoxious. Because there are plenty of times when I'm sure she's capable of not being obnoxious.
There probably are. So yeah, I agree. I think it's her choice of how she was yelling and screaming through the whole movie.
I'm reminded, for whatever reason, of Emma Watson as Hermione Granger, or as any role ever, and the way she's horribly obnoxious. Like the weird, like breathy, I just,
Yeah.
like, this is a weird kind of thing that is emotional and breathy and strange, and it just doesn't work.
You're acting too hard.
Yeah, it's just be a real person.
Yeah, I mean, I know that real people do yell and scream on occasion,
Yeah.
but it's not like a constant thing.
No, only when I'm drunk. I mean, what? What? He's not accusing me of anything, I'm sure.
No.
Just
Never.
saying. Just saying.
So yeah, and then it's like they just conveniently, you wouldn't know this, but what they do in the movie, they just conveniently jump from each known satellite from one to the other. She's like, oh, there's the International Space Station over there. Let me just jump in that direction and we'll just float towards it. It's like, oh my God, those things are like thousands of miles apart.
You know, in a little bit of context, maybe they could convince you. They
Right,
could make
they could have been
something
like,
up.
oh, well, in 3 hours, it'll only be so many
There you
miles
go.
away from
That's
me.
all it would take. That's all
Instead,
it would
it's
take.
just like, oh, we're here now. Look, over there, I can see the International Space Station. Let me just use my little propulsion jets, and we'll scoot on over there.
No, no,
And that's what they do in the movie, and I'm like, no.
No.
Fuck you, movie.
No.
That's not how that would work.
No. So, if you're somebody who has seen this movie and has thoughts to yourself that this movie's terrible and overrated, you are not alone. This is your support group right here. So kudos to you. Stick with your guns. Do not give in to the hype. It's not worth it. Speaking of hype, the other show that I'm not sure if I would say I have refused to watch it, but I know you've seen it, and I have not yet seen it, and I just haven't been able to bring myself to dedicate the time, is the Han Solo movie.
Oh, yeah.
I have not seen it. I haven't seen it.
The Han Solo movie's biggest problem is that it features Han Solo as a character. If they had called it Guy Cholo, and it featured the character of Guy Cholo, and he was just a spaceman doing space things, I probably would have liked it better, honestly. Yeah. I didn't really buy this guy as Han Solo, and, I don't think I would have necessarily preferred anyone trying to do a more direct imitation of, why can't I think of the fucking actor's
Harrison
name?
Ford.
Harrison Ford as Han Solo. I don't think I would have bought it no matter what, which is why you just shouldn't have made the movie.
I've seen, I don't know who it was, I can't remember the actor, but I've seen other people doing impressions of Han Solo, of Harrison Ford's Han Solo, and it was really, really good. In fact, I want to say the first person who was supposed to be Han Solo, I don't know who it was, I don't remember, but I remember that totally legit, good, looked like the right person.
Yeah.
Had the right mannerisms, had the charisma, the gravitas to really bring the balls to the role that it needed, which I just didn't get from this other guy.
But yeah, from this guy, so obviously I saw the movie. He kind of won me over by the end as his own thing. The problem was that he was supposed to be Han Solo, and I didn't feel like he ever was Han Solo.
Yeah.
But the movie itself was okay. It had some really majorly terrible things in it. Feminism robot.
That's what everyone dreams of when they think of a sex robot.
Other than Feminism Robot, the movie didn't have too many major problems. She was a major problem. So
yeah, feminism rules everything.
I mean, it was so... The funniest thing about it to me is that I know that Kathleen Kennedy is majorly into feminism, but the way it was actually handled in this movie, it really made it seem like they were making fun of it.
Yeah, well,
and again, you wouldn't know because you didn't see it. This is why you should watch it, because it's just so fascinating. But it really made it seem like they were making fun of her for being so over the top as a feminist cliche, just in robot form.
Yeah.
It was kind of hilarious.
I'm sure I will get to see it at some point.
It really comes across like you're supposed to hate this robot for being so ridiculous. It's so stupid.
That sounds right. It does.
It's kind of amazing. It's a very bizarre thing. But no, other than that, and that being terrible for a multitude of reasons, the movie had some fun stuff.
I mean, I like Woody Harrelson. He's in it, right?
Yeah, he is.
I don't know if he's any good in it. I haven't seen it, so whatever.
It's like I hate to spoil things for you.
You better not spoil it.
I still think you should watch it at some point. Not because I think it's a good movie, but because it's fascinating.
Yeah, I will. I'm sure I'll see it. I'm not refusing to see it. Like I refuse to sit and watch Gravity. I refuse. I refuse. Solo, I just haven't taken the time to do it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, here's something I did take the time to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to also take the time to do it, but at the same time, I cannot in good faith recommend this to anyone, and it is a book series that I went through. It's called The Passage. It's a 3-book series. It's I think the first one's called The Passage, the second one is called something, the 12, the coming of the 12, the calling of the 12, something like that. And the last one is called The City of Mirrors. All 3 books are overly long. All 3 books
Great.
are horribly depressing. All 3 books are about vampires.
Oh, you really sold it.
And and they're not like crummy, terrible vampires like Twilight. They are more traditional, like, they're not even vampires. I don't...
Are they ancient?
Yes and no. It's not clear. They're not really. It is and it isn't. It's like a virus, but not a virus. You can't decide if it's an ancient thing or if it's a virus. It's so weird and terrible.
3 different overly long books, and we don't really know anything about how they work?
We don't know anything about it. No.
Oh, great.
We don't know why. We don't know what the motivation is. Nothing. It's very strange. And I desperately want to talk about it with someone who can agree with me about how terrible these books are.
Well, you said this is now like a television series,
I
right?
believe that Fox is either working on it or it's already been released. The first season or something of it has been released. It's called The Passage. It's...
we're going to have to watch it together.
I don't know if I can bring myself to do it. I just don't know. I forget the guy who wrote it. The guy, Jamie Cronin, Jamie Cromwell. I don't remember. That sounds sort of kind of right. I better not. I'm going to get myself in trouble if I keep spitting out names
that's
here.
Slander.
So terrible. Anyway, I remember not realizing when I got involved with this trilogy that it was vampire related. Otherwise, I probably would have avoided it like the plague. But I managed to get into it, and by the time I was halfway through the first book, I'm like, I think I have to keep going. By the time you're done with the first book, all of a sudden you have to do the other ones. And they were so long. They were like a Stephen King book, but not as well written.
The only other thing that I have experienced that I would compare it to is the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind. For some reason, I listened to all of them as audiobooks.
How many books? How many books?
Like 11 or 12.
Wow, I have not been through them.
It's insane how many books there are, and they are so bad. He is so heavy-handed with his social commentary, and it's so like blatantly obvious that anyone with like half a brain knows what he's trying to get across as the bad thing. Was
that Terry Goodkind you said?
Terry Goodkind.
Yeah, and he's written a gajillion books, right?
That man is not smart. He wouldn't know subtlety if it punched him in the face.
That happened to me once.
Yeah. That man, he has no concept of what subtlety is. But that would be a separate conversation. But yeah, I've often wished I could talk to somebody who has also read all of those books, because it's just so bad.
Yeah, and that's not
There's
to say
so much there.
That's not to say that you and I agree on everything, but a lot of times we do agree on stuff. I'm trying to think of good illustrative examples of where we've really genuinely.
I feel like we usually agree. It's just that one of us usually feels a little stronger about it than the other.
Could be. Like there was that.
There's very few things that we just flat out disagree on.
There was that series. It was a fantasy novel trilogy that you had me go through. I don't remember. It had the Bloody Nine in it. It had the wizard guy, and it had a lot of. It was.
I remember you not being sold on it after the first book. What was that?
I don't remember the name of it now. Oh, geez, that's terrible. We should know. I mean, the three
Yeah,
friggin'
you'd
books.
think we would know.
Oh, we should know what the heck we've read in the past.
I definitely didn't like it by the end of the third book,
Mm-hmm.
but I liked the first book quite a bit.
Yeah, I was lukewarm on the one character I really liked, the one tortured guy who had been tortured and was basically disfigured and handicapped and stuff. He was
Yeah.
by far the best character.
He was interesting.
And everything else I could basically leave.
Mm-hmm.
It was the rest of it was not terribly interesting to me.
Yeah.
But he was good. He was good. I liked him a lot. He was far and I looked forward to every chapter with him in it. I thought that was pretty well written. Though his motivations were clear and obvious and worked, and I liked it. He was cunning. He was clever. He was conniving in all of the best and worst kind of ways. It was wonderful.
I don't know why, but I really liked that the one guy, the Bloody Nine, like you said.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That the whole book, you're like, why is everyone so like down on this guy? Why is he such a he's such a like social outcast? And then you realize that it's literally because he is an actual split personality, and his other personality is literally like a berserker.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's a sadist. He's terrible.
I thought that was really cool when I got there. So
that's
that
fair.
for some reason that really appealed to me, and that's kind of what sold me on that book, because that reveal is like right
Yeah.
at the very end of the first book.
What I didn't like about it specifically, and I can really draw this specific line, was it was just too short on description. Now, I have the same gripe with the Dune series. Now, I've only ever been through the first Dune book. That's the only one I've ever been through. I haven't been through the rest. Certainly not all the Children of Dune and all that kind of stuff. But I remember liking Dune, but I always felt like it was a little light on description. I couldn't visualize things quite the way I would have liked to in that book. And I felt like this was another book that was similar to that. They said something about the enemies that they were fighting, and they were like, I had no capacity to understand what these things looked like or what they were or how they moved or any of that kind of stuff. They were just there, and I felt like that was abundant in these books, and that just really that really just turned me off. So anyway, so those are two book series that I guess we'd have a hard. Well, 3 book series. Geez.
Yeah, we
The
talked about
Passage,
3.
and then what was the one?
One
you
that
said?
I read, one that you've read. So,
Yeah.
The Sword of Truth.
Sword of Truth. There
And
you
then
go.
that third one, I wish I knew what
I
it was
can't
called.
remember. The Bloody Nine should be the dead giveaway, but I can't for the life of me remember what the heck the name of it was.
Oh,
You're
I'm
going to do
Google
it. You're pulling out your phone. All right. Well, in that case, that gives me a chance to talk about the next thing that I would like to piss off every possible person in our audience by talking about how overrated this is. And by this, I mean Breaking Bad. Now, I can't think of a more aptly named show than Breaking Bad, because it started off great, and eventually it really did break bad. I mean, it really, or maybe it was just bad. I mean, it just kept getting worse and worse, progressively worse. It just kept going. Any luck there? The Bloody Nine.
Yeah, I don't know what the trilogy is called. Books, The Blade Itself,
The Blade Itself.
Before They Are Hanged, and Last Argument of Kings.
Yeah, that's right. I remember those.
But what's the trilogy called?
I don't know.
I don't know. The Blade Itself is the first book anyway.
Yeah.
Which, again, I really liked the first book. By the end, like I said, the whole reveal thing, I mean, major spoilers, obviously. It's already done. I don't know if I'd recommend the trilogy, though. I really liked the end of the book because of the big twist with him. I probably wasn't sold on it until that.
Yeah.
So
Jake, that issue aside, what did you think of Breaking Bad?
got worse and worse as it went along.
Yeah, he broke bad all right.
And I kind of hated it by the end.
Yep. I would say that I felt like it had a great first season.
Yeah.
Which was only like 6 episodes or something like that.
Right.
And actually the last season I didn't hate in many ways. The problem was all of the intervening seasons.
Yeah. Too many for one thing.
Yeah, yeah. The last season I felt like wrapped things up fairly well. I actually kind of liked the very end. I thought that worked okay. The problem was, I think the biggest problem for me the whole time, the whole damn series, the biggest problem was Jesse.
Oh, I fucking hated Jesse.
He was a terrible character, and for whatever reason, Walter felt some weird, misplaced kind of loyalty to him.
Why, though?
Walter was ruthless. He should have put a bullet through Jesse's brain by the end of the second season.
He had multiple opportunities to just let him die.
Let him die.
And there was no reason for him not to. He would have been so much better off.
Where did the loyalty? Why did he have any feelings for this person whatsoever? Where did that come from?
No, it
came from nowhere.
Just terrible.
Oh, jeez. So much potential in that show. There were so many good, well-acted roles, so many really good things to say about it, but just the main characters were such idiots.
Yeah, I hated that Jesse was a main character. That's the worst thing about it for me. I can understand the angle they were going for was that Jesse was Walter's way in to this world of selling,
which is fine,
of selling drugs, but that was it.
That was it.
You know,
done.
Based on what his character was, I still don't see that as enough to justify him basically screwing himself over at one point to save Jesse.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that one season ended with him like killing some people to save Jesse, and that's what got him in this position underneath.
The guy.
But see, this is the problem. I don't really even remember because I watched the series once. I did not think it was worth watching any part of it again.
Yeah. Because
I just did not like most of it that much.
No. But once you're past the first season, it just doesn't matter. It's not good. It's not good.
No, it just goes on and
how
on.
many seasons were there? I don't even know. Like six, 7 maybe? I don't know.
6 or 7. That sounds right to me.
Way too many. Way too many. And this was a perfect and clear example of a show that obviously had a set of writers that had a clear first season laid out. Maybe they had some inklings of what they could do with the second and third season. It sounded like that was the case at least. And beyond that, they had no clue. And it is apparent. It is painfully apparent that they didn't know what the fuck they were doing for the rest of the series until they get to the last season. Once they knew that it was the last season, then all they had to do was tie up all the loose ends. And they did a great job of that. Once they had a goal, once they had purpose again, but there were all of these intervening seasons that they had no point. Nothing.
Yeah.
And they were just a waste of time.
They really were. I didn't get anything out of them, that's for sure.
No.
It was always just he's in this shitty situation. Let's see how he gets out of it and comes out on top.
Yeah.
It's like that's fine once or twice, but
and I don't want to make this sound like it's any kind of detriment to the actors, because I thought pretty much the entire series was exceptionally well acted.
Yeah,
I really did. Even Jesse's character, as much as I didn't like the character, I thought the guy who played it did exactly what he was supposed to be doing the whole time.
The problem was that Walter cared about him when there was no reason for him to.
Yeah.
None.
So I had very little problem with the actors on it. In fact, I would go on to say that it was exceptionally well acted. It's just that the writing, they didn't know what to do. They just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Speaking of writing, the other wildly overrated thing that bears some talking about, and you actually have a longer history with it than I do, and this is, of course, how could it be anything else but Harry Potter?
Harry Potter.
So before we get into the books themselves, let's just talk about the first 2 movies.
The first 2 movies were boring, if I'm being honest. I thought they were good representations of the books, but they were boring movies.
They were clearly children's movies.
Oh, yeah. They were, they had the, they had the kid gloves on.
Clearly children's movies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would argue that that was not by any means a bad thing. And of course, it's hard to compare because Dumbledore, Richard Harris's Dumbledore was so absolutely perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
It was, yeah. It was.
That it really, I think that more than anything else, I think that he carried the movies for as little time as he spent on screen. But I thought those two movies were quite good, and then we're met with the abomination that is the third movie.
Yeah, I hated the third.
The third movie is terrible. Everybody seems to love
People
the
seem
third
to
movie.
love that movie.
They think that that one is somehow the best of all of them, which I think is abysmal. I think that that movie is far and away the worst of all of them. I don't know if people just have a hard-on for Alfonso Cuarón or whatever the crap his name is.
The director?
The director,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I think some people definitely do.
It was way too artsy.
There's there's like one shot in the movie that basically is the whole movie for me. It's where it's like coming back, and I think it's supposed to like represent the whole time dilation thing going on.
Because
but
they're
it
like
comes
going
back
through the movie,
and it goes through the moving clock.
Yes, that's
as
right.
it goes back into Hogwarts.
Yeah,
and I'm like, wow, you are really just jerking yourself off right now, aren't you, buddy?
You're so clever. Oh,
good
you're
job.
so clever. Good job.
Wow.
Pat yourself on the back there. Yeah, it's a little too much. Too artsy.
Yeah, that's the whole movie for me. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, so we're going to deviate from the books more. You're going to make some things a little more movie-like. So that's the problem, though. Like, the first two movies, they were good, but I still hold that they were boring.
They were. I give you that.
thought they
I give
were
you that.
boring.
Yeah.
The third movie just... They're just like, all right, everybody, do what you want. Be your character the way you want to be your character.
We want to put everything on steroids.
So I'll just say everyone has too much artistic freedom in the third one,
Yeah,
and
it's just too much.
and it's obnoxious.
Yeah. I thought that the lighting and the costuming and the overall tone of the first two movies was exactly what it should be, and I missed that through the rest of the series. It certainly is what is portrayed on screen, because those first two movies got the tone right. They did that right.
So that's the problem I have with the whole series is they never struck the proper balance for me.
No.
Like the third one, they swung too far the other way.
Whoa, boy! It was jarring. It felt weird.
Yep.
And then the fourth one, they swung back a little bit, but it was kind of kind of forgettable, and there were some pretty questionable special effects in it, and
Yeah, really questionable.
you know, and they made. I would argue that they made some questionable casting choices, although I would also say that Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort was quite good. That he did a good job.
I love Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah, he's a great actor. You know, and then the rest, 5, 6, and 7, and 7.5, I guess, were acceptable, adequate. They all missed out on the fun, clever kind of Britishness of the books, because you and I both read the books.
Oh yeah, multiple times.
Yeah, I haven't been through necessarily multiple times, but I have been through them, and I genuinely liked the first four. By the time the fifth rolled around, and there was a big gap, we need to address the fact that there was a big gap between the fourth book and the fifth, sixth, and seventh books.
Yeah.
And I think there is good evidence out there to suggest that J.K. Rowling, right? J.K. Rowling? Sorry, I'm getting confused with A.K. Yearling with My Little Ponies.
That's too bad.
J.K. Rowling didn't realize the success she was having, or something caught fire somewhere along the lines with the first three books, or with the first four books, and then there was this big gap where she had to like reevaluate what she was doing, what she was thinking, something along the lines, and she's like, oh, I've got to step up my game here. And then all of a sudden here you are with a fifth book that was fine, a sixth book that I thought was definitely less fine, and a seventh book that was lackluster in a best case scenario.
Yeah. It's a classic case where she very clearly didn't know where she was going when she wrote the first book, which is unfortunate. I really like when you can reference things at the beginning, at the end,
Yeah.
and have it clear that there wasn't an all-encompassing story planned out.
Yeah.
I think that's neat.
Yeah.
When it's very obvious that you're just like, oh, I got to the fifth book and I was like,
I gotta
figure out what the fuck I'm gonna do to end this thing.
Yeah. And I want to
And
make
then
it
you-
not sound contrived, so I've
Right.
got to latch on to these things that I had early.
Yep. And then you just had to BS your way through the end of it, and it's like,
Yeah.
good effort, but man, I wish you would just thought out the whole thing in advance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really wish that.
Or she could have just kept on having this kind of fun, rompy, clever British kind of
Yeah,
feel.
have it be a little more episodic, you know? Each book is its own thing.
Yeah.
Each year is its own thing.
And I'm glad you mentioned episodic, because by the time you get to the seventh book, which should not have had any bearing on any kind of episodic nature, they still managed. She felt some weird compulsion to like have it correspond with the school year at Hogwarts.
Yeah.
What?
Why?
It made no sense. What was that
That
all
was
about?
the biggest thing holding her back in that book.
Here you were at the end of the sixth book. You had complete freedom to really take this
Yeah.
thing and run. And instead of doing that, you've artificially constrained yourself to do this kind of short, small-minded kind of,
Yeah.
I can't go too big because I don't know why you didn't think you could go big. This could have been a 10-year saga. If you wanted, you could have had time skips in there. You could have had this or that or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
No. Gotta make it coincide with that school year.
And another big problem was that there was no hard magic system. The magic, as portrayed in
Yeah.
Harry Potter,
Poor system.
made no logical sense.
No, and the series, it's character driven. I get that. So you can kind of fudge it a little bit. But yeah, I agree. I dislike that kind of magic system. I want to have a rigid set of rules in place so that I can understand what's going on.
Clearly defined rules.
Instead, you just get these instances where they just BS their way out of situations because magic.
Compare Harry Potter's magic system to something like Aragon. Right?
Yeah, Aragon has its own series of problems.
Oh my gosh, does it ever.
But that magic system, solid.
Yes.
Yep.
Solid. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. Aragon had some thematic problems. It had some character problems. It had some story problems. But its magic system was rock solid. That was well done. Well done. And consistent.
Yep.
From the start to the
Consistent.
end. Yeah. Very, very well done. And
Yep.
he was able to do interesting things with it. Not to get super off topic, but I mean, like, by the time we're into the fourth Aragon book, and he's talking about things that are like he's got like an allegory for nuclear explosions
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's crazy stuff that
Interesting.
he's able to work into his existing magic system because it has rules, because it is clearly defined.
Yep, you
and it
can
makes
reveal a
sense.
couple of new rules along the way,
Yeah,
and that's acceptable.
and it's interesting.
Yep, as long as they make sense.
Yeah, but that we can talk about the Aragon trilogy.
Yeah, some other time.
At some point.
But yeah, Harry Potter is just like, oh, whatever a wizard can think of, that's gonna be what can happen. Because no matter how complicated the spell, it doesn't take any physical toll on the wizard, so they can just do whatever the fuck they want at the end of the day.
Despite that they have like a potions class where they have to clearly go and get like these different components and make the magic potions and stuff like that.
It's like, why?
You could
You could just figure out what the magic word is and then just imagine it in your brain. You don't even have to say the word, and then it'll just happen.
Yeah, that's right. You can just conjure whatever
Yeah.
you want out of.
It's like, why would they
whatever.
have potions? That's the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
But it's whatever. It's character driven. I get that. I get that.
It's just, I feel like that detracts overall from
Yeah.
the quality of what otherwise would have
Yep.
been a pretty fun thing.
You can do it both ways. It is possible.
It is
It's
possible.
it's harder, sure, but
Yeah.
it would still make it better if you tried to do it both ways.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. So it's Harry Potter, wildly overrated.
Yeah.
Now, it feels to me, I mean, you get so much more out of the books than you do in the movies.
Big time.
Especially with some of the character history, certainly Dumbledore's character history and all that kind of stuff, which, love it or hate it, at least it's there, I guess.
Yeah. It's hard for me because it's hard for me to even differentiate the movies from the books
Yeah.
for some of these things. Because the Dumbledore from the books is so ingrained in me at this point.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, it's hard to differentiate in some of those cases. And mostly because they just didn't take the time in the movies to really develop
Yeah.
the character of Dumbledore.
So I know the one thing that really stood out to me about the final movie was that they really nailed that final movie up until the end of delving into Snape's memories.
Yeah.
Right at that moment, from there until the end, they're like, all right, whatever. Do whatever the fuck you want, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
And
there
then the
you go.
movie just went off the rails for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, right up until the end of Snape's memories, I thought that the last movie was doing things right.
Yeah. Well, and all of the I would say 5, 6. Wait, I'm trying to think here. 6 and 7, 5, 6, 7. Half-Blood Prince was 6. 7 was the last one. Oh, jeez, there's just too damn many of them.
Yeah, the three, what were they called?
The trifecta. Fuck, man. What the
Harry Potter and the
Harry Potter and the fuckity fuck.
the three
The
thingies.
three things. The Deathly Hallows.
The Deathly Hallows, that's
there
what they were
was.
called.
Yeah,
You
there
figured it
was.
out. Yeah, that was
yeah.
unfortunate that those things were like pulled out of the ass.
Out of
at-
nowhere. So if they
at
had
the end-
alluded to those at any point in the previous books at
Like,
all.
I know that she made his invisibility cloak like one of them, but that was so stupid and contrived because it was very obvious at the beginning that they were like, "Oh, invisibility cloak, that's very rare." It was
Yeah.
not made out to be one unique individual item.
No.
It was made to be like, "Oh, those are really cool, but they're super rare."
Yeah.
Which would imply that there's still a bunch of them out there.
Yeah, that's right. And it wasn't. It just wasn't.
No.
And
So it was
like the-
very obvious that was just pulled in at
Yeah.
the last minute.
Yeah.
She had never planned that in advance.
No, of course.
Very
obviously not.
clearly.
Yeah, and same thing with the vast majority of the Horcruxes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that the
She
book
made
that
something out of nothing.
that the diary in the second one happened to be a Horcrux was just because she
Yeah.
was
Pure
searching.
happenstance.
It was just it didn't feel right. It
convenient.
didn't feel right. It was convenient. That's right. It was convenient. Yes.
It's like, yeah, I could fit that in if I call a Horcrux this exact thing, then I can work that in so that it was one of them.
Yep. Yep. That's right. That's right.
But no, it's very obvious that was not planned. Again,
No. Yeah.
it's like, I appreciate the effort. I really do. I know that she must have thought a lot about it, of how to make this work so that it could kind of work with the previous books building to this.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But if she had just planned it out in advance
Yeah.
so that it worked a little better, I would appreciate it so much more.
And I think she was trying to. I think that's why there was such a big gap between books 4 and 5, is she was trying to figure that out. She might not have had it all mapped out. And in her defense, I think that she did as good a job as she could in many cases.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I know we've talked about it a couple times, but I have to mention it here because in book 5 there is a high-profile character death. that is done in the movie, in the Hollywood movie version. That is, of course, the Sirius Black death. In the book. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, so Sirius Black, spoilers alert, is killed in the 5th book. Sirius Black is Harry's godfather, who has kind of taken a pretty serious role from the end. Really, he only had a character from, I guess, Prisoner of Azkaban was the 3rd book, so he was kind of a character.
Very end of the 3rd book.
So he was kind of a character in the
book.
4th book, and then 5th book he really becomes a character, and then they kill him off. But the way that they do the death in the movie. Right. So I'm gonna if you've seen the movie, good for you, great. You know, they're like Avada Kedavra, and he's standing in front of this like portal-y thing, and he like falls kind of slow motion back into it.
Yep.
And you see his spirit kind of flutter away from his body, and it goes into the portal. Wow. And it like all the sound goes out of the scene, and you see like the screaming. You know, he's all so emotional. Oh, I can't believe it happened. Whatever. Oh my gosh. Just nothing. I feel nothing from that scene. I felt nothing. Nothing. Felt nothing. I'm going to lay this out for you briefly. I'm going to try to be brief. But if I were a filmmaker, I'm not a filmmaker, but if I were a filmmaker and I wanted to have an impactful death scene that you didn't see coming, right? Now, I don't remember in the books where they actually did the Avada Kedavra spell to Sirius Black. Like, if I remember right, he was struck by something, and he flew backwards, and he went through this. You know, in the book, it's described as like a veil, right?
Yeah, a curtain.
A curtain.
I believe it's described as literally just a curtain.
And everyone around Harry knows what that means, but Harry doesn't. He doesn't realize that he has now crossed over into some other realm, whether that's death, whatever it is. He doesn't realize, oh, my godfather, who has basically become my father figure, is just beyond the curtain. I just have to go get him. He's fine. There's nothing wrong. And he doesn't understand, and there's like this moment, and it is kind of heartbreaking in the book. Now, if I was filming that, I would have, instead of the Avada Kedavra spell and the green flash and, oh, here's my spirit going away, I would film it like he gets struck with something and he gets hit by it like a physical force, and he's pulled backwards and he goes through this veil, and it would be a veil. And Harry wouldn't understand. He wouldn't comprehend what was going on right away. Everyone else around him would. They would understand, and they'd have to like hold him back. No, you can't do this. You can't do this. Why? He's dead. What do you mean he's dead? Oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah.
Have it be a shock. Convey some sort of shock.
No,
there was no shock.
Because it's a movie, you have to have that immediate thing. You can't do it in a movie any other way, because you won't get the immediate emotional response from your audience. That's the problem. That's the problem with movies. Movies these days are about that immediate emotional response. You can't do anything any other way.
It reminds me, and I'm going to butcher this, but I'm reminded of something that someone said. I want to say it was somebody, I don't think it was Mahler, but maybe somebody Mahler was having a debate with or something like that. Had something to do with the movie. It doesn't matter if you have a cohesive story that makes sense. What matters is the emotion you felt in that moment.
Yep, that's what movie makers are all about today.
But that's wrong.
It is
wrong.
You can have it both ways.
You can. In fact, you must have it both ways.
Yeah, and honestly, the lingering effect of doing it more with logic than with emotion, it will stick with you longer.
Impact.
It will stick with you longer as long as it makes sense.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, all you're going to remember is, oh, that was stupid. That didn't make any sense.
That's right.
That's what you're going to remember.
There has to be more to it. There has to be logic behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be character motivations that made sense,
Yeah.
and logic within the world and the context of the world. It all has to come together, and if it doesn't, then it is not satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, the immediate emotional response to Sirius Black dying in the veil and you get to see his spirit drifting off, yeah, that's an immediate gratification type of thing.
Like, you
But
understand what's happening.
Yeah, but the idea that he flies through this curtain and you're just like, oh, he's just on the other side of the curtain. We'll just go to the other side and he'll be okay. He'll be hurt because he just got hit with something, but he'll be okay. And then going over there and seeing, oh fuck. He's gone.
The realization.
He's actually gone.
Like, give the character the moment to understand what's really going on. Let
Give
the
your
character, let the
audience-
actor actually convey this.
That and then give your audience the benefit of the doubt that their slow realization, that will hit them even harder once
Yes,
they realize what
yes.
just happened.
Yes.
Don't spoon feed it to them. Let them come to that realization on their own. Be like, oh, I thought he might still be okay, but oh, fuck me. He's actually gone. He's really gone. And now I have to deal with this feeling. I thought he was okay, but now he's gone. I'm feeling the same thing that Harry's feeling.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
shit.
Woo! I got you to clip the mic. Woo!
I mean, it's just so obvious to me, but apparently movie makers can't understand. They can't give their audience the benefit of the doubt that they will come to that realization on their own. The assumption is that your audience is a bunch of idiots.
Yeah. And that's a problem. That is a problem.
It is.
And that goes with just about any big budget movie these days.
Yeah.
It is a giant problem.
You have to give them the immediate gratification. You cannot give them the benefit of the doubt that they will come to the realization on their own that you had something deeper going on.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is a problem with not just Harry Potter. That's a problem with many movies.
Yeah, it really is.
So, well, we've been talking now for a while. I hate to say it.
Mm-hmm.
I see you've been drinking beer faster than me.
My
If I
bad.
do say so myself. Granted, this was an Imperial Stout, and
It was good.
Oh, it was super good. Oh, Lagunitas. Oh, what are you? You are 9.9.
Oh, my.
Lagunitas. Doggone good. Doggone good. Do you see it? Doggone. See it? Doggone good. It says it right there at the bottom. It's tiny. It's so good, though. Imperial, baby. Doggone good. It is. Anyway, so the last
So that was
topic,
good.
the last topic that we sort of had, but we both decided that was not something that we could continue doing this video because it would last forever.
Yeah.
And it actually really plays in to all of the problems with Harry Potter. But it is Disney live action remakes. Now, these movies I refuse to see.
Yeah.
I refuse.
Oh, I would never go to any of them in theaters.
Hell no.
I've seen the Beauty and the Beast remake.
I've seen enough of the Beauty and the Beast remake to be appalled by it.
It's upsetting.
It is upsetting. Yes.
It's like, why would you remake something just to make it worse?
And it does make it worse.
It's
Now,
so much worse.
and I've seen a couple of pretty good analyses of it. There's a gal, Lindsay Ellis, I believe,
Yeah.
is the YouTuber. Does a great video on it.
I believe her phrase is, "Thanks, I hate it."
Yeah. Which is exactly the right response, by
Yep.
the way.
Because they make so many little changes, and she points out how those little changes make it worse.
That's right.
It's
That's
like,
right.
okay, you could have just remade it the same way, and it would have been it might have still been worse.
Yeah.
But at least it would have had the same impact, technically, on a story level. But instead you made little changes to how the story works that made the story not make sense anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Gave the characters weird motivations, and it was very strange. Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yep. They were apparently trying to fix their viewer complaints, whatever you want to call those, and in doing so, they invalidated a bunch of other things about the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just Beauty and the Beast.
That's just Beauty and the Beast. So I haven't seen, won't see in theaters
won't
the
see it.
Aladdin remake. I have not seen and won't see the Lion King remake.
No, heck no.
I might watch them once I can obtain them for free through
I won't.
means that I won't mention.
Yeah, there are plenty of places where I'm sure you'll be able to view the movie.
I have obtained the Dumbo remake because, see, that is one that actually makes sense to me as a remake.
Explain that.
There wasn't much story there to begin with.
Okay, fair.
That's the main reason I have for that. There wasn't a lot to the Dumbo story, and there was at least one extremely racist character in that movie that should have been taken out and
Just
replaced
one?
with something. I don't remember it well enough to know if there was more than
I
one.
guess I don't remember there even being one. I remember the crows.
The crows. I mean, so that was an obvious one.
Well, there we go. All right. Well, I guess I'm not
That's
too
the
far
one
off on
I'm
things.
thinking of.
That's not just one character, though. That was like the...
One racist
the
caricature.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
what I
it's
said.
like it's like 4 or 5 guys and
Yeah.
they're singing and they're kind of like jive talking.
Yeah, it's
and,
more than one crow, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I consider that whole scene a racist caricature.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Disney's pretty good at that.
Yeah, how about that?
They were pretty good.
They're
at that.
trying to get away from it.
They
They're
really
trying
are.
to make up for it. So
Yeah.
good for them, I guess.
Yeah, that's weird. That's an interesting side topic in and of itself. Like I'm thinking Lady and the Tramp, where they had like the Siamese cats and they were like, "We are Siamese." It's like, wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
This
All right,
is
Disney.
this is way weird. This is, and I know it was a different time and stuff like that, and it's just interesting to see. And they've gone so far the other way.
Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily think that some like small amount of stereotyping is inherently an evil thing, but there definitely is a place where they carry it too far. And some like the crows thing, I could see that being tastefully done. I'm not sure if it was in the original Dumbo. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't
But
seen
I
the
could see that being done in a way that would actually work just fine.
Yeah.
The We Are Siamese stuff, I think that would be pretty tough. I think that would be pretty tough. I think that one would be really tough. And I know that there are other things like Song of the South has never been released. I don't know anything about it.
I don't either.
We
I've
went
never
on the
seen it.
ride, I guess, in Disneyland. We went on the Splash Mountain ride. Had a great picture of Dad, and he had that hat that he had with the like Venus swimwear.
That's right.
It was a bright pink hat, and that was the last
And
time
the hat
any of
was
us ever
gone.
saw it. Was on. He was still on his head in the picture we got on the ride, and then it was gone forever. Ah, good times, good
But
times.
no, the only aspect of that I can remember, there was like a short movie that Grandma had that they were singing a song.
the Zippity Doodah song.
Zippity Doodah.
I think honestly, I
And the
think it
guys
was.
in that.
I think it was. I think it was just a Disney
video was
sing-along
that?
song.
Yeah, Disney.
That's all it
sing-along
was.
song.
It was just Disney sing-along.
That's the only part of that I ever experienced firsthand.
Nobody wants to see us sing that on tape.
Oh God, no.
We did lots of Disney sing-along as kids. I think we did sing along, in fact, when we were kids.
Oh, I'm certain we did.
Yeah. That was. We grew up in interesting times on VHS cassette.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our grandparents were very old.
Well, our grandmother is still very old.
Still very old.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep.
they were in that time.
They were, and it's interesting. It's just interesting, just to see how things change.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, maybe that's a good place to leave off
Yeah.
for the night. It is night here. I'm sure you could watch this in the morning, in the middle of the day, in the evening, in the early morning, whatever suits you. But I've got this much beer left, which is not very much.
Yeah, and I'm out. Sadly.
And so am I. That was good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Lagunitas, Petaluma, California. It was delicious. And that is another episode. Good Lord, did we really talk
That
for
is
an
that.
hour about a bunch of stuff that we hate?
Yes,
I think
we did.
And we could do it again.
Mm-hmm.
We could
And
do it.
we will.
And we will do it again. And on that note, all of you, we'll see you next time. And until then, keep it angry? Well, maybe not angry.
Stay hammered.
I like it. Until then, stay hammered.
Yes.
We'll see you next time.